Hey, what's going on? My name is Eric, and in today's video, we're talking about Google Voice versus Grasshopper and RingCentral and Phone.com, and which one of these tools is right for you. So my goal in this video is not only to help you figure out which one of these services is the right fit, but also give you some insights on ways that you can increase sales and close rates with your business. And I'm going to try and merge all this together in one video. So what I want to talk about first is something called the golden window. What that is it's the first 5 minutes that a lead comes into your business and how your response time to that lead matters quite a bit. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is something called instant response. This is from Grasshopper. It's available with several of the services, but basically what happens is if you miss a phone call, and let's say that it was a lead for your business, what you can do is set up an instant response so that that person is texted so that you can open up a dialogue in a different way. What that does for the person calling you is it makes it feel like you're putting in that little bit of extra effort, and it also feels like they're already in communication with you, and that is extremely important. What we're looking at on the screen right now is a blog post from marketo.com, and the part that I want to highlight is the fact, well, the title is How Does Lead Response Time Impact Sales? And if you look here, it says, on the other hand, the odds of making contact increased 100-fold if the lead was called within 5 minutes versus 30. In addition, the chances of qualifying a lead were 21 times better if the lead was called within 5 minutes. So in this particular survey, this kind of case study they did with an MIT professor, they were talking about kind of like contact form leads and how quickly you respond to them. But this is also true for people who are calling your business, because if you're a smaller business, especially, and you're wearing a lot of hats, sometimes you can't always answer the phone. But what you want to do is make sure that that person feels recognized and feels like they're already in contact with you. 3 of these services allow automated text messaging so that you can create a dialogue with that potential customer right away. So what we're looking at here is a Google Voice form, and somebody's saying, can I set up auto reply text to anyone who texts me through Google Voice when I'm on vacation? So what you'll find is that with Google Voice and their terms of service, that it's actually against their terms of service as far as sending messages via an automated process such as a script. So with Google Voice, you can't have somebody call your business on that line and then immediately get, hey, I'm sorry, I'm on the phone right now, type text message, but when's a good time to call you back, and be able to continue that dialogue in a different way. One of the other reasons I don't recommend Google Voice is simply because of services like Google+. As you can see here, which I'm highlighting, it says that was closed down on April 2nd, 2019. If you're going to start a business and you're going to have a business phone number, and especially if you're going to have repeat customers, it would be horrible for you if you were to lose that phone number. So Google is kind of notorious for trying out new features and then taking them away and getting rid of entire services such as Google+. So if you set up a Google Voice number for your business and then one day Google Voice decides, hey, we're not doing this anymore, just like that, you're out of that number and you're losing a lot of sales and leads for your business. The third reason I don't particularly like Google Voice is I've always had issues with spam. What you're seeing on the screen right now is a list of incoming phone calls that came to my wife's Google Voice number, and only 2 of these phone calls were legit. The rest were spam. For whatever reason, I have a lot of issues with spam with Google Voice. So what I want to do at this point of the video is actually remove Google Voice from the equation. If you want to go with the free service because you want to save a few bucks, go ahead. But trust me, you're going to lose out on sales as we kind of explain more of the features that are provided from the 3 remaining services. So at this juncture of the video, what I want to talk about is something called the JAM study. Now, it doesn't relate directly to voice services or VoIP services, but it does have an impact on the way you think about your business and present your offerings to your customers. So what the JAM study was a bunch of graduate students, maybe there was 2 or 3, from Stanford, decided to try out a concept that they had come up with, and it was how the number of choices that you're presented with and how it will impact sales. So what they did is they went into a grocery store and they set up like a little table and they put a ton of jams or jellies on that table to have people kind of sample them. And then they took notes on how many people sampled the jams and then how many people purchased. So then the next day they set up the same table, but they dramatically reduced the number of jams that you could sample, and they took notes on how many people sampled the jams and how many people made a purchase and actually grabbed one of the jams. And what they found, which is pretty interesting in the study, is that in the lower sample amount, the day that they provided less samples on the table, they actually had less samples given out, but they made more sales. And the reason for that is something called cognitive load. So when your consumer is trying to make a decision, they're trying to make a purchase, if you give them way too many options, it's hard to make a decision. I kind of think of this, if you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory, it's kind of hard to pick out a meal that you want to order because there's like 500 of them to choose from. So if you lower the amount of items on a menu, so to speak, it's much easier for somebody to make a decision. So I share this with you because I'm actually doing the jam study right now in this video. And what I'm trying to do is remove some of the options for you so that you're just looking at two services and trying to make a decision between those two to make it easier for you. But I also think this is helpful information for you in the way that you structure your products and services. If you're coming up with a lot of different options because you're trying to be accommodating for your customers, you're actually making it harder for them to do business with you. In fact, if you kind of look at some of the options and the plans that these services offer, a lot of times it's 1, 2, or 3, or maybe it's like 4 potential options here, 1, 2, and 3. There's a reason that they're doing this, and the reason is they don't want to make it difficult for you to make a decision. So the next thing I want to do is I want to remove another service to make the decision a little bit easier for you. And what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the pricing here. So this is the way that Grasshopper is laid out, $26 to $80 a month. And they're really meant for, they kind of highlight it down here, entrepreneurs with a side gig, growing business, 1 to 3 companies, or a small business that has a little bit need for call routing and flexibility. But if you go into RingCentral and then you're talking about RingCentral versus Phone.com, this is where you'll see a dramatic shift in the way that they do their pricing, and I'll show you. So it looks great here as far as the pricing when you're looking up on top, but then as you start to scroll down, that's where you realize that there's a limit, there's a restriction on the number of minutes that you can use in each of these plans. The same is true for Phone.com. You can see it's 300, 500. Finally, you get to unlimited if you're doing $30 a month. So in my opinion, Phone.com and RingCentral kind of get put into their own bucket compared to Grasshopper. And what that bucket is really larger businesses. Phone.com tries to play in both spaces a little bit. They both have a base pricing and then a per minute charge if you were to go over your minutes. So if you click on the little info button, you can see on RingCentral that you're going to be charged 3.9 cents per minute of going over your phone plan. And then the same is true for Phone.com. It does go down if you kind of do a ton of minutes here, but you can quickly add up on your bill if you're using your phone quite a bit. And the same is true too for text messages even, because there's a limit on how many text messages that you can send with these plans. Now, the reason you would go with RingCentral or Phone.com is that you have a little bit more of a complex business, you have a lot of employees, and you have features that you really want implemented into your business to make it easy for you to analyze data, call reports, audit customer service. So now what I want to do though is kind of talk about Phone.com versus RingCentral and remove one of these from the decision-making process. So either of these that you go with, you're really doing it because you need more features. So now let's talk about RingCentral versus Phone.com. And what I want to do is be able to remove one of these services again to make things a little bit easier in this review. So what you'll see with these services is that they're a little bit more complex than Grasshopper. They have a lot of integrations and different things you can do. They have unlimited fax and audio conferencing, video meetings and such. And what I have found from comparing these two services is that the integrations are much stronger on RingCentral. So what we're looking at here these are all integration partners, and I'll explain one of these if you're not familiar, but basically it makes it really easy for you to integrate with services that you may already be using. So let's say hypothetically that you use Zendesk for your kind of customer support, knowledge base and things like that. So if somebody submits a ticket and they have their phone number on there, one of the cool things is that you can integrate with their Zendesk integration. And then what it does is it makes it so that you can very easily just click the phone number on the screen to make a call. And now if you have a call center, that's going to make things way more efficient if it's click to call as opposed to somebody dialing all those digits out every single time. Now, if you go to the integrations on Phone.com, it's much more limited. What you can see is there are 6 of them. So there's not as many integrations or connected applications that you can use. And again, going back to the list here on RingCentral, it's pretty substantial, the number of integrations that you can use. And if you got Google Suite, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Zapier, Trello, all these things that you can integrate with and make things more efficient and be able to customize the service to your needs. So at this juncture of the video, really what we're talking about is Grasshopper versus RingCentral and which one makes sense for you. Now, it really depends on what your business needs are, but if we go back to the pricing for Grasshopper, this is going to probably be the right fit for, if I were to guess, maybe 8 or 9 out of 10 people watching this video. And the reason for that is the cost, right? So $26, $44, $80 a month. The way that it works is they give you a certain number of phone numbers and then a certain number of extensions. Now, why would you want one of these packages over the other? Now, in the first one, you get one phone number and 3 extensions. So just think of it like a call tree. If you were to call that number, there's 3 possible departments that you could reach from that one number. And then if you're dialing back to a customer, it's going to come from that one number. Now, some businesses that are probably larger and a growing business might want separate phone numbers. And the reason for that is you see this a lot of times on a contact us page where they might have a customer support number, they may have a sales number, and try to separate those things out. So now I would like to highlight one of the features that I think is really advantageous. And I talked about it earlier in the video, but I really wanted to show you how it works because I think it can help you close sales for your business. So with Grasshopper, what they call it is instant response, and it's automatically send a text to new callers when you can't answer their call. So this is really helpful if you're a business owner who wears a lot of hats and you can't always answer that incoming call, because as we discussed earlier, there's that golden window, and if you can get to them within 5 minutes, your chance of closing that deal is much higher. But realistically, that may not be an option for you depending on what you have going on. So what you can do is have that text communication immediately, and sometimes it's a little easier to kind of text with somebody on the side and then set up a phone call for later. But to that person actually reaching out to your business, it feels like they're getting an interaction right away, immediately, and then there's the ability to continue that conversation via text. So what I'm going to show you now is exactly how that service works. So at this point of the video, what I wanted to do is show you when the customer calls, what it sounds like for them going through the process, and then how it shows up on your phone. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually not answer the call so that you can see that text message that's going to get fired right away to that customer on that missed call. So why don't we take a look?
Hello, thank you for calling Movie Phone. If you are a new customer, press 1. If you are a previous customer looking for customer support, press 2.
Please hold while we connect your call to extension 2.
So at this point too, what you'll see is that it's showing up as my business phone number. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm not actually seeing the customer calling. I'm seeing the business phone number. So this is really important. What you're seeing on the screen here is that text message that got shot right away. I actually declined the call. So if you are using this out in the field, and again, maybe you're out in a sales call or something, you hit the decline button. But the person doesn't know that that happened. It actually rang for a little bit longer than that, which I like, because sometimes when you call and like it rings once and then it stops, you're like, oh, somebody's screening my call. I didn't get that feeling as the customer, but then what it did is it rang a few more times to get to a normal amount, and then I immediately got that instant response. Sorry, I missed your call. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Is there anything I should know in the meantime? Thank you. And then that again is going to pop up in my text history right on the app inside of the phone. So just a really neat way to be able to communicate with your customers, but having more of a professional feel rather than using cell phones. And it's also nice because you can keep track of everything for your business in one app and not have to have it merge in with your personal text messages. If you are curious, if you look at the text message history, it does not show on your personal text messages. It's only inside of the app. So that's why it's important too to have notifications turned on when you're using Grasshopper for your business. So one of the last things I want to talk about are reviews, and sometimes reviews, in my opinion, can be a little bit misleading online. And one of the places I like to go, especially if they have an app, is going to the app stores, because you'll find some interesting information and insights via the app store reviews. So I do think that's kind of interesting that RingCentral actually has a better review on the Google Play Store. But if you're looking at the app store with Grasshopper, it's clearly a much better review at 4.7 and 25,000 compared to 3.7 and 1,700. So what I'm going to do now in this video is, if you're interested in either of these services, and hopefully I've helped guide you a little bit depending on which way you want to go, really small business, solopreneur, just starting out, 10, 20 employees or less, I think Grasshopper is the way to go. If you have a large business and you have different departments and you want to look at analytics and have all these features and integrations, RingCentral is the way to go. So what you're going to see on the screen right now are 2 different videos that you can click, and they're going to show you how to sign up for these services, but also get a little bit more in depth into the feature sets and things that you should be aware of. And again, thank you for using my links in the description below. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to catch you in the next video.